What's up guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name's Jake. Welcome to the JD Cars Automotive YouTube channel. Please be sure to go check us out at jd-cars.com. Follow us on Instagram at jd.cars, and please be sure to subscribe for more content. So today on JD Cars, we'll finally be installing the Rough Country dual steering stabilizer on our JKU over here, and this installation process is going to be applicable to all JKUs, all Jeep Wranglers, 2007 through 2019. So my JKU here is on a 4-inch long arm lift from Rough Country Suspension Systems, and it's got some massive 37-inch Nitto trail grappler tires. So with all that weight and all this height, it is a little bit sloppy in the steering department. So with this dual steering stabilizer, we should improve our steering feel quite a bit. It's going to reduce the feedback coming up through the steering rack into the steering wheel, and should make for a more pleasant experience. And jumping right into the box here, let's see what we get from Rough Country Suspension Systems. Okay, off the bat, really good packaging, some super thick foam protect our components. Looks like we have one shock or dampener, as some people call it, right here. Pull this out of the bubble wrap, and I believe this is one of Rough Country's standard N2 shocks, and as you can see, it does have this band over it, so we're just gonna pull that off. And now you'll notice when I took that off, the shock didn't come, rushing out on its own. I actually had to pull it out. I still have to pull it further out for it to extend. That's because this is a 50-50 valved shock. It's going to have the same amount of resistance in both directions because we want even resistance on our steering, of course. There is some clear plastic protecting the shock body, so we'll pull that off once we have it installed on the Jeep. We do have some nice rubber bushings on either end, a beautiful silver metallic paint job, and lastly we have a nice thick 18mm chrome hardened shaft. So that's quite a beefy shock shaft right there. Nice upgrade from the single stock shock. And of course we've got another shock, as this is a dual steering stabilizer. So there's the second shock. And then remaining in the box, we have all of our mounting hardware here, which consists of a lot of U-rings and nuts, and then a couple bolts. And then we've also got our bracketry.
Whoa!
So here's the center bracket. It's gonna protect the strut ends and fasteners. Then we've got our two end brackets and the big center bracket right here. Now, last but not least, we have in the box here, we have some instructions from Rough Country along with some sweet decals for the shock bodies, a warning sticker, and on the back of the instructions, we do have nice images to guide us along through the installation. After removing the front wheel, the front passenger wheel that is, we're gonna wanna drop down our tie rod right now so that we can access this bolt on the stock shock absorber. So if you have an impact, you should be able to zip it off. Nope, I gotta hold that still, ball joint's just spinning. So if we hold this still with an H6 Allen head, we can then loosen up the nut. I unfortunately don't have a 22mm box wrench. I need to expand my tool set for sure, but this will get the job done. I'm gonna spray some PB Blaster on here. On the back of this bracket here, we have these two U-bolts with 4 13mm, so we're gonna remove those. And to get the stock damper out of the way, we can use an 18mm. Remove that nut, and we should be able to pull off this bracket. Might need to go grab a pry bar or just lift it up to alleviate the pressure. There we go. So once we've removed the bracket from the tie rod, we can bring the tie rod back up into place. But before we do so, we do want to come up here and remove this 18mm bolt, retaining the other end of the stock damper. You don't have to hold the back side because it is just a flag nut. Stock damper. Right out of here. Alright, so with all of our stock stabilizer equipment removed, we can now start installing our new mounts, starting off with the center mount here. Big bracket, that is. Obviously, the smaller U-bolts are going to go with the smaller brackets, and the larger ones are going to go with the larger bracket here. That mounts up to the axle. These ones mount up to the tie rod. They do all use the same size nuts. And then we have our hardware for the dampeners themselves, but we'll talk about that later. So we're gonna grab our 2 larger U-bolts, 4 of these nuts, and I'm gonna use a 14mm and my electric ratchet to tighten this down. But we're not gonna torque it down just yet. We're gonna wait until we have everything mounted up before we tighten down any of the brackets. Alright, so that covers the installation of the center bracket. Now it's time for the outside brackets that go on the end, and this is how they mount up. So first of all, you do want to make sure you grab the right one because they are directional. This one, you can see this hole for the end of the damper is closer to the differential. You'll see that the driver's side one is different, and this hole is going to be over here. Now, once you have the right bracket, you can put it right on the end of this sleeve here. Grab your smaller U-bolts, bring it around the back of the bracket, grab yourself 2 nuts, hand thread them on, grab the other U-bolt. Now, like the center bracket, we're not gonna tighten this down until we have the dampers connected and bolted down. All right, with all 3 brackets now installed, we can get our dampers installed, but first, we do wanna take these little bushing casings or spacers, whatever you wanna call them, just push it into the end that does not already have metal in it. You'll see one end is just bare rubber, so we're gonna slide that in. Might as well do it to both while we're here. Slide it into there. There we go. And now we're gonna have to finesse this a little bit here. But basically this cover gets sandwiched in between this end of the damper and the center bracket that we put on the axle. So we're gonna have to hold this in place while we slide a bolt through from underneath. Then we're gonna put a washer on top, and lastly, one of the larger nuts. The last step here is securing this end of our dampener. So we're gonna do so by taking the remaining big bolt here. Oh shoot, I just realized we gotta put this bolt through first in order to get it through. So I'm just gonna back off this U-bolt, buy myself a little bit more room here. Now I should be able to slip this in. Nope, looks like I gotta remove both the U-bolts. Make sure you install your long dampener bolt before installing this bracket, like so. Simply reinstall our U-bolt. And now we can slide the dampener right on over this bolt, then the washer, and then the nut. And you wanna make sure that your dampener is fully extended all the way out to the end, like so. We'll go do the same thing we've done here over on the passenger side, and then we can tighten down all of our fasteners. Now that we have all of our components installed, we wanna make sure that the center bracket is centered, and we can do that by going to each end, measure from this ring right here to the shock body, and I've measured out to make sure it's 5 inches on both sides so that each side has an equal stroke length. So once we've gotten that centered, we can snug everything up. Again, these nuts on the U-bolts are 14mm, and the larger hardware retaining the dampeners are all 19mm. Alright, so I just got back from a quick test drive in JKU with our new dual steering stabilizer from Rough Country. It definitely made a noticeable difference in the way the Jeep reacted to bumps. There are quite a lot of potholes and bumps and recesses and all sorts of stuff in New England roads. We're definitely not known for our roads, and it definitely made a big improvement in how the car handles when it hits a bump. Previously with the stock single dampener, the car didn't really track as true as it does now. If you hit a bump, it would move the steering wheel, you could feel it in your hands, and the car would be easily persuaded by bumps like that. So I would say the Jeep now reacts more smoothly in terms of the steering wheel to bumps, and there's a slight difference in the resistance in the steering wheel, which I kind of like. Gives it a slightly heavier weight, makes it feel more robust in my opinion, and yeah, I think the Jeep definitely needed this with those big 37s. It needs that extra dampening, so I'm glad I installed this. And if you're considering lifting your Jeep and putting bigger, heavier tires on it, you should probably consider checking out this kit because it's pretty inexpensive and it'll definitely improve the steering characteristics of your Jeep. Also, in terms of the look, think it looks a lot better than the stock setup. Obviously love the black and red decals, but also nice to have the two dual stabilizers showing there. Looks great. So I'm dying right now. It's cranked up to like 96 degrees. I gained a huge appreciation for the guys that work in garages down in like Texas with no AC, but I need to go inside, get some water, and cool off. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, please go leave a like down below. Comment for future Jeep video suggestions. Please subscribe for more Jeep content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on JD Cars.